Dr. Tan Wu Meng.
Mr. Speaker, thank you for the opportunity to join in this debate. I stand in support of the motion. In this House, yesterday and today, we've seen wide agreement across the members that inequality is one of the great challenges of our modern era, not just in Singapore, but also across many nations, many societies around the world. Much of the discussion in Singapore and around the world as well has been about redistribution, about redistributing resources, opportunities, and so on. But there is also a deeper theme, which is that of social cohesion. Whether fellow citizens, whether fellow Singaporeans see each other as brothers and sisters with a common destiny. Because if you do not see your neighbor as your brother or sister, then the question of whether you are your brother's keeper or sister's keeper does not even arise. And that is why our policies to maintain social cohesion, that sense of friendship and fellowship with each generation, must continue and must continue being deepened and reforged. But, Mr. Speaker, is it enough just to have redistribution and social cohesion? Both are important, very, very important. But are they enough to sustain a fair and just society into the future? Not just for one term of government or one generation, but for generations to come. Mr. Speaker, today I want to raise the idea that to sustain a more fair and more equal society, to help our workers and families keep pace with the cost of living as the world changes around us, there must continue to be economic growth, quality growth. Quality growth so that our people can continue to rise and live better with each generation. Because growth combined with reinvestment in our people and our communities can be a very powerful force, a force against inequality. Mr. Speaker, imagine a slow economy. Some countries around the world are facing that. A slow economy favors old money, those who already own capital, those who already own land, those who can charge rents without labor or innovation, those who would want to build a rentier society without value creation. Sir, Singapore must never become a society where there is only old wealth without new enterprise. There has to be growth, good quality growth. Quality growth rebalances an economy so that the rate of return on capital can be matched or surpassed by the rates of return on work, whether it is deeply skilled work, the work that an artisan does with his hands through years of experience and knowledge, the deeply skilled work that a specialist nurse brings to caring for patients and supporting caregivers. It is the knowledge work by experts with deep learning and interdisciplinary skill. I'm told today there are lawyers learning blockchain and studying how it will transform ledgers and transactions. Two very different disciplines, yet coming together to create new domains of knowledge work. Innovation work, as ideas are generated and implemented. Makers making the future, often in scenarios where buzzwords become the factories of tomorrow. Advanced manufacturing, where robotics, 3D printing, additive manufacturing, combined with the Internet of Things. Factories which might have seemed like something out of science fiction a decade ago, but which are rapidly becoming reality. Entrepreneurship work, the work that young Singaporeans go about when starting a business, building those skills, creating opportunities to rise together with co-workers and employees. Sir, growth can be a force for young Singaporeans to rise and do well. We also continue to learn from the experiences of other countries, the role of government and businesses working together, how working together there can be reinvestment to regenerate shared resources and grow the shared common space and common resources that all can benefit from. Mr. Speaker, I spoke on this previously in the 2016 budget debate. If I may just tell the story again in a slightly different way. So earlier this decade, there was a Harvard study by Michael Porter. They looked at many US businesses, and the Harvard study suggested that some US businesses could invest more, that they weren't quite investing enough, according to the Harvard group. Not enough investment in workers' skills, not enough development of supply chain networks, not enough regeneration of infrastructure. Even though investment would have helped all companies do better, it did not always make short-term business sense for individual companies. Clayton Christensen calls it the capitalist dilemma, when short-term considerations run up against long-term issues in a business. But, Mr. Speaker, in Singapore, with the support of fellow Singaporeans, the government, businesses, workers can come together to reinvest and regenerate. For example, investing in workers and shared skills, because it helps workers and helps businesses. The ongoing tripartite effort by our brothers and sisters in the labor movement to upgrade workers' skills, it is reinvestment in our human capital, reinvestment in our workforce. And we must continue encouraging companies to invest in skills upgrading, because this uplifts the worker and uplifts other companies in the sector as well. It must continue to be part of a deepening culture and social compact between our employers and workers. Likewise, helping our fellow Singaporeans to go regional, to find new opportunities, is part of this too. Mr. Speaker, sir, there's also investment in shared infrastructure and shared knowledge. Another lesson we can learn from looking at other economies around the world. Economists like Mariana Mazzucato have written about this. She pointed out an example of the iPhone, how it built not just on private enterprise, but on many innovations originally funded by the US government. For example, the internet, once upon a time, started out as a project funded by the American defense establishment. But today it is part of the innovation commons that powers so much innovation and entrepreneurship in the US. Touchscreen technology was initially developed at the University of Delaware with partial public funding. Closer to home, Mr. Speaker, if I may talk about food, because food is a great passion for all of us in this House and fellow Singaporeans at large. Enterprise Singapore, one of our agencies, is leading Food Innovate, a multi-agency program. And the theme of shared infrastructure comes through again. For example, if you imagine some equipment items like a high-pressure processing resource, basically a machine that involves many precision parts which would require a large capital outlay, may not be so easy for a small business to buy one. Not every business can afford to buy one. But when agencies establish a shared resource, many companies benefit, including the smaller SMEs. And this helps level the playing field and create opportunity. Mr. Speaker, sharing experiences and knowledge is also part of that reinvestment and regeneration. For example, overseas market workshops that help our local Singaporeans learn more about going overseas and exploring new markets. We've seen programs such as those on the Belt and Road Initiative or on consumerism for Indonesia. We see programs investing in our workers and mid-career professionals as well. For example, Enterprise Singapore and Workforce Singapore have teamed up to help mid-career professionals develop skill sets for regional jobs in the wholesale trade and logistics sector. The program is called the Professional Conversion Program for Southeast Asia, but the key message is that there is ongoing reinvestment and regeneration. Sir, our trade associations and chambers have an important role in this journey as well. Many of us will have heard stories of veteran entrepreneurs sharing their knowledge, sharing their own social capital and networks to mentor younger peers and younger entrants in the SME sector. Mr. Speaker, it bears repeating. Quality growth is good for workers, good for businesses, and good for society. It is one key way in which we can continue fighting inequality. Sir, growth can also help our fellow Singaporeans with the cost of living. Singapore is small. We are price takers. When the trade system around the world undergoes changes, when oil prices go up and down, when the price of goods shifts, we can't change those global prices. We are price takers. But when we invest in our people and continue investing, when we uplift and empower our workers, we build towards better jobs, better prospects, and better capability to cope with that cost of living. And so quality growth, sir, is very much part of the mission of all our economic agencies and our businesses, creating opportunities for young Singaporeans of all backgrounds, opportunities to rise, whether you start in an MNC or whether you start an SME yourself, an SME that may start small but someday grow big, maybe even become a unicorn. And being able to do that whether you are born in private property or in a rental flat. Opportunities to grow through picking up skills and experiences, either from your peers or through partnerships between trade associations and agencies. Opportunities to grow and learn no matter what background you come from. Opportunities to take flight, to learn management and leadership, to get overseas work exposure, to develop your potential, regardless of whether your parents have pre-existing wealth or entrepreneurship networks. We have to keep those opportunities coming to fellow Singaporeans so that our younger generation can continue to rise and grow. Mr. Speaker, we are small, but we can. And we must be brave, and we must be bold. Brave enough to face the future, bold enough to overcome. And so long as we pull together, strive together, brave and bold, I know we will survive, and I know we will thrive. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.